One of the things that you tweeted recently was that you hate Nuance, or one of your favorite academic papers is against Nuance. What is it about Nuance or this paper that made you think so much?
So I'd run into this situation because I work at Twitch right now, and at Twitch you get a bunch of really smart people. And I noticed this pattern. Every tech company I work at, you work with really smart engineers, designers, UX people, researchers, data science, whatever it is. And what you need is to move forward, you need to have like some direction. Where are we going? Are we going here, left or right? Are we going straight? Where are we going? And why are we going that way? And then what are we trying to achieve? And I feel, and how do we know if we're getting there? How are we going to measure this? What's the metric we're going to use? And what I've noticed is that the smarter people get, the more the answer becomes this, everything is gray. Nothing is black and white. And they take a lot of pride in this. You say, oh, we did this and this caused this. No, cause and effect is impossible to prove. Basically, it might be correlated. We don't know. There could be a lot of variables. So first few times you hear it, you're like, yeah, that's a fair point. There are many variables. It does depend. You want to measure growth? Well, should we measure revenue? Yep, but revenue is oversimplifying it, because you have to also think about profits. You have to also think about usage and engagement. You don't want to just optimize for revenue. Okay, so we're going to measure 15 things, and then how do we know what if one goes up, one goes down? Did we it becomes, so people cling to nuance, and especially the smarter you get, the higher the IQ, the more the desire to say that everything is nuanced. You ask them, why did this happen? What are we going to do about it? And it's well, it's complicated. And it's complicated. You're right, but that's not helpful, right? You're right that it is complicated. There are many variables. There are shades of gray. There are multiple things to consider, but you cannot get paralyzed by that. And what I've seen so often is that people get paralyzed by their own intelligence. It's like analysis paralysis, but applied in a kind of a group setting. Analysis paralysis is usually for yourself. It's when you can't make decisions because you're overanalyzing everything. This is what I've seen at companies is everybody thinks everything is so nuanced that basically you can never make a statement, you can never pick a direction, you can never measure anything, you can never do. So it's I feel like the pendulum swings way too far in that direction. So I love this paper that came out. It's an academic paper that basically said F nuance is the title of the paper. So that already caught my attention. It basically argued that certainly nuance exists. I'm going to say something that's unpopular though, which is nuance, the way it is used in most situations, is not useful and should actually be not brought to the table for these reasons. There are 3 nuance traps, and he kind of goes through the traps, and you got to read the paper to go through the whole thing. I don't remember the whole thing off the top of my head, but I loved it. And it resonated so much with my life experience, where if you want, let's say you want something to be memorable, let's say you're CEO and you want to explain something to your employees. If you give some long-winded, nuanced explanation, guess how much of it they're going to remember 7 days later? If you say, make America great again, and I don't know, Mexicans are rapists, people remember that shit for better and for worse, right? Because there's no nuance. The nuance of Mexicans are whatever, killers or something, whatever he said, he was probably talking about there's drug cartels that are causing some issues at the border, blah, blah, blah. And I'm not the type to give him the benefit of the doubt, but what I'm saying is if he wanted to be nuanced, he could have been nuanced, and it would have had zero impact and memorability and zero leverage for him in terms of communicating. Same thing with Make America Great Again. Well, what does that mean? Great how? How are we going to do it? Blah, blah, blah. Isn't America already great? How are we going to measure greatness, right? You could tie yourself in a knot trying to do it. But he was basically saying, America used to be great. We've lost our way. Let's get back on track, right? That's all he was saying. He didn't even care what that meant. Everybody can make up a different story in their head about what that meant to them, but it was a very powerful form of communication. So I found that for communication, for being remembered, F nuance, that matters. Same thing with trying to make a decision. If you think everything is so complicated and so interconnected and so interwoven, then you're going to be paralyzed. You're never going to feel like you can sort of okay, yes, but here's the 80-20, right? Here's what logically makes sense. Here's what we see in the data, and it's enough to go on to take the next experiment, make the next action. And if we're wrong, we'll see that we're wrong by taking this bold step. And so, I don't know. When I read that, I was like, this is music to my ears.